Hey folks, Max here.
Sorry I'm late. I was busy working on my Vancouver presentations.
So early in the morning?
It's like 9 o'clock here. 9 o'clock for you too, Florida
It's a valid excuse, Craig, as long as it's not paid work you're doing.
girl. It's just free work. Come on. All right.
Who does paid work anymore? We always do
Well,
free work. Oh, this is recorded.
well, you get paid to do free work now, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of paid work I need to get done.
Mhm.
How's everybody doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing well.
All good on my side, so I'm just on the road, so the camera's off.
Okay, no worries. I did not have any items for the agenda. So are there items that the three of us would like to discuss today?
For the education DEI GitHub repo, do we need to do anything for next week?
Is it done?
I know you messaged that it was alive. Is it done is a different question.
It would be wonderful if we could get the README set up like we do for best practice or the education SIG. Just so with it being live, if people go to the root of our Git repo for the foundation, it'll show up. And if they're curious, they'll click on it and it'll say nothing.
Right.
Which will make them sad.
I mean, we can just copy, paste, tweak the education one anyway.
Absolutely. But we could put in our the nuances for the SIG. And I think we had started early on in the DE&I notes that we had I think Jay and Christine were batting around a vision and mission. So I think that would be something we could easily transport into reality. Yeah, let me look. Using the power of Firefox. View all repositories. Oh, the DE&I SIG updated last week. Oh, and it's all boring. Talks about All-Star.
Oh, they did some updates.
Well, it's just that I guess the template Kahil used is a example All-Star quick start repository. It's what our README says.
Excuse me.
So if somebody had time to update that would be dandy. Otherwise, in my voluminous spare time, I'll add it to my backlog and we'll see if it gets done by 2024.
Yeah, I can tackle it. I'm frustrated with Azure right now, so it will be a nice little relaxation piece.
I had noted the European Open Source Summit, the call for papers closed yesterday. And they will be opening up a OpenSSF day track call for papers soonish. I don't know when Jennifer was planning on doing that, but that'll be in the coming weeks. And it might be a great idea for all working groups and SIGs to think about it. But I would love to have education represented. And also if we can get the DE&I group represented, that would be amazing. I would think that'd be pretty cool. Chance to reach out to maybe folks that don't necessarily show up to normal OpenSSF things in Spain.
Do we have CFPs from the North America that we can just?
I just recycled my North America ones for Europe, so we'll see if that strategy worked for me or not.
But for the DEI ones, or
there were. We have two things. So Sal is doing a panel, and then Christine and Jay are doing a lightning talk. And so the CFP for that I think it's actually linked off the DE&I meeting notes. And I apologize. I'm clicking around trying to find,
Trying to find the meeting notes.
right, there it is. Wrong one. Sad trombone. I found the memory SIG, memory safety SIG. So if anybody cares about memory safety programming languages.
I don't know.
All right, so here is the meeting notes that I will hurriedly get set up. But are there any topics, anything we wanted to work on around either the education plan? We could talk about like the learning paths if we wanted to start to slot up content or start the gap assessment on where we might need to have some new content, either find some or make some.
So I actually do have content.
Oh, well, give me a minute and I will give you an exciting May 3rd.
Shout out.
Yeah. It's
what
not
is
quite,
it?
it, May the 3rd be with you.
Almost there.
I know.
Like Legos already got me.
Uh-oh.
Damn Legos.
All right, so we have that.
Oh,
This is the DE&I one. No, wrong meeting invite. Fail, Crobe.
I mean, we did talk about this, how it's a little confusing because they both have.
Well,
education.
I gave you that link because you were looking for the call for papers.
That's right. See?
Hold on.
For good reason.
I've got it. Education SIG meeting notes.
All right, let me find my, because we went through the mentees from our conversation last week with Jay about scholarships and like how to apply for them. When we went through the mentorship like initial list, I got a little, I don't want to say, I thought of a learning opportunity.
Okay.
Taking this. So I started drafting up can tweak it. I don't know if this is publicly available. Let me make sure that's publicly available. No. So let me move it to. I'll share with you, group. And then okay. And then I'll figure out how to make it. Share anyway. Did I just make it public? Yeah, share with anybody.
Maybe anybody with a link.
There you go. Commenter. And then I'll add it to the meeting notes. And that's where this is. New items. Let's do that. So it kind of just goes into tips and tricks. Like I guess from the D&I team, we can write out like top X tips on like submitting your application for a scholarship or interview.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's a piece of blog. If we want to split this into multiple series, I think we can just continue with that, like have a high level one that just these are the points, and then we continue on with like diving into each point a little bit further in a next blog. But I couldn't sleep that Friday. I was like, okay, I'm gonna drop this.
So I think that actually would be specific to that group. I think that is a really good strategy. We do the office hours and then you publish a blog a little bit afterwards. I think that would be a very useful resource.
Yeah.
And that's something that depending on, I imagine that the foundation has the ability to do, metrics. So we can kind of see what kind of impressions we got and how many monthly viewers we had. So I think that could be useful to kind of show that this is a pretty important topic and there's a lot of interest outside there in the community.
Yeah.
And that's something that we had talked about as part of the EDU SIG. One of our tactics of getting education out was podcasts and blogs and conference presentations. So again, it would also be very simple to kind of interweave these things
Yeah, our top 5 or our top list could just be the bullet points that we cover, right?
Mhm,
Those are all of our topics.
mhm. And for the office hours, were there people specific only there for the scholarship, the internship, or were they were they there looking for mentorship or any kind of engagement around getting cybersecurity for historically underrepresented folks?
So I think it was a mix. It was 2 individuals outside of the D&I. It started off with the scholarships with them, excuse me, the mentorship, and then it kind of went into like, how do I move into cyber, or how do I transition?
Mhm. Cool. All right. So back to the full SIG. I still don't have any word from the GB on approval. There's a governing board meeting tomorrow. Maybe they'll talk about it there. We'll see. I know I had conversations personally with CISA. They are a government agency here in the United States, and they were very interested in things like the open source PCERT and also the education plan, because that's a big strategy here in the States, is trying to increase cybersecurity education. So they were very interested for more details about the education plan. So people seem to think it's interesting. I just we haven't seen any stepping up to help us fund and do some work on it yet.
Well, that's good to hear. There's interest at least.
Yeah, and actually, our White House here had just published something specific, their cybersecurity strategy, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, which
fourth
talks a
point.
lot about workforce and DE&I.
Yeah, exactly. And Christina was working on a response with Nicole to potentially we might get an invite for that group to go talk to the White House about kind of what our deal is and what we're kind of our goals are and what we want to achieve. So again, I think that would be amazing engagement to be able to have that opportunity to talk and express the concerns and see if we can get some traction and resources behind this important effort.
Yeah, for sure. I think the year one always looked like a pilot or a kind of a seed round, if you like, of all of it, right, before getting the corporate engagement that we were all hoping for and I guess still expecting.
Yeah.
And I mean, government and public sector engagement is fantastic as well. There's certainly a lot of funding, as I understand it, out there in the US government behind the topic. I mean, the timing is really good as well. If you are having conversations with the governing board at the moment, most young people think about things in terms of the school year cycle, and they think about September as being when things start. With the objective of graduating out of programs and getting into opportunities the following summer. So it's absolutely the right time in the next month or so to be thinking about, how do we start ramping up programs to engage students, whether it's, high school, college, community college, 4-year degree program, whatever it is, over the next academic year, and making cybersecurity one of their extracurriculars that they think about in the year ahead, and then perhaps start thinking about going to jobs, internships, whatever it is, by next summer.
Good points. Yeah, it depends on the school year, because I think sometimes, like, I've seen schools start in early August down here, but I don't know what they're doing anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I think school years vary between the kind of the second week of August, I think, and like mid September. Europe obviously being a bit later because people like their summer breaks. But yeah, I mean, the beginning of the fall, I think, is when when people have a lot of energy and get into new programs. And obviously the beginning of the new year as well, the two cycles that we see a lot of our community members looking for opportunities and being engaged and you know, making time commitments, which is ultimately what we need people to do, right? I think, you know, people need to put in a 50 to 100 hours minimum, right, to like get into cybersecurity, whatever the structure of that is. And I know education and DEI isn't all just about young people and early careers, but you know, that's the next generation, that's the future, that's where the hundreds of thousands
pipeline
are going to come from, right? They're not going to be you know, they're not going to be physical security people who are retrained. I think there's definitely pathways for that. But I think there's a huge gap which is going to have to be filled by the next generation, and you know, organizations that really drive changes in the representativeness of their workforce are doing so kind of bottom up, right? You can't just go out and hire a representative set of leaders because they're not there.
Right. And there's a keyword you said there, which was like the older generation you have to retrain. So it's something that I've learned since I was younger, was just like, you want to get the youngers because you don't have to retrain them or undo what they've already learned.
You can't teach old dogs new tricks.
If with an e-collar you can. Oh, my
That's
dog.
it. It's just about giving people the stick, not the carrot.
Yeah. It's
No, for
doable.
sure.
It's possible.
Yeah, I've
situation's
done a
different.
lot of programs in the past, retraining people, you know, from a variety of different backgrounds, from people who have, you know, lost their jobs all the way through to people who are like internationally displaced and all the rest of it. But it's only a small percentage of people that are up for it because it's very scary. And I think, yeah, it's small numbers is kind of the main thing, right? And you've really got to think about like pathway and placement and giving people kind of security at the end of it.
And maybe that could be a next step for the full SIG here, is to let's think about the swaths of types of learners and kind of let's try to focus in on where we can get reach the largest audience for, you know, the least amount of effort. So if we think that, you know, young learners, we do have a lot of content already available kind of at that entry level. So maybe our first steps could be, if that's our largest population, our largest target population, we could take a look at the content and see what do we need to tailor, what is missing to help those young learners getting into a career. So we had talked about, you know, learning how to work with Git and commits, and you know, some of these more interpersonal type things that might not be part of the technical training, but you have to have as a software engineer. You have to understand how to work within CI/CD pipelines and how to work with source code management. So maybe we kind of look at the content and try to augment a couple of those pieces we think would benefit younger learners first, and then we can, you know, once we have things in place there, then we can move on to whatever we think the next most beneficial target group could be. So maybe that would be retraining, maybe, and what types of things do you need to do reskilling? And
yeah, 100%. I think the holy grail, right, is going to be to have a learning path that will take somebody from, you know, whatever their starting point is into a, you know, a proper like security engineering role or whatever it is. The places to start, and coincidentally probably is the same content or at least similar content, is looking at people with like a formal academic technical education, whether that's like a boot camp or you know, a CS degree or you know, other like college equivalents, and where the gaps are between that and the knowledge and skills that you need to start a career as a security engineer. And the other one is to look at people who should have cyber awareness, right? So thinking about cybersecurity for application developers, cybersecurity for infrastructure engineers, cybersecurity for web developers, cybersecurity for UI engineers, right? You name it, right? Cybersecurity for QA and testing, all of the like adjacent roles, and it happens to be more or less the same content, right? As people start coming through that, some people are going to make that reskilling career pivot. Other people are going to go and pursue careers from the beginning in that direction, and that's when you then start to layer on top of that the advanced topics and the specializations.
Yeah, I agree. All right. A moment while I take. It's the worst thing to run a meeting, having to talk and then take notes as well.
I time my speaking part for when I had to walk up a really steep hill, so that's equally tough. You can hear me wheezing here.
So I've actually been writing notes, but apparently it's been in the wrong.
Oh, you're in the DEI one, yeah. I'll find it and copy it over. It's fine.
I come here.
There
we go. There.
With the like approvals of the kind of the budget and the plan, correct? Is that kind of I don't want to say a formality, but is it likely to be a case of a waiting game to get the plan approved? Is there kind of the right buy-in, or is it likely to be, some kind of this going in the right direction, but all of this stuff's going to have to change. We need to adapt the plan in X, Y, Z ways.
In general, the plan we have today is a update of the original plan. So we added new content, but directionally, I feel is exactly the same. So what we need the governing board for is the Section 3, Sal put in a very ambitious rewards program. So I have exactly $0, €0 in funding. So if we want to reward, so if we want to give a developer a scholarship or a grant or, conference tickets to Usenix or whatever we think the best reward is, I'm not able to do any of that. But any of the content that is, volunteer based, like we want to develop a secure quality UA testing module, we are empowered to do that. There's no stopping that. And then secondarily, I would love for the governing board to say, this is a great idea. I have a SDLC team at my megacorp organization. I would love those people to help work with you and either donate content or volunteer to give the boot camp class. So I'm looking for people as well, volunteers as well. But anything that we all can accomplish for $0, we can. There's nothing stopping us from doing that today. But again, I need to have budget, and I would love to have more volunteers.
That makes a lot of sense. Getting the volunteers tends to be, I don't want to say easy, but if you build out the program, start getting people into it, and you prove you've got the reach, and there probably is some element of stipends, right? Otherwise, you won't necessarily enable people from all different backgrounds and walks of life to get in. We've run stipended and unstipended programs, and both work well. There is a difference in terms of the turnout. There's no doubt about that. It's the same as people who can do unpaid internships, right? That it isn't a representative cross section who are able to do that. Not just people would like to. Yeah. But once you've got a program set up, right, and you're kind of going, hey, we need somebody to, run a mentorship session on, CI/CD security best practices or whatever it is. It's usually not too hard to get people to come in and put one of their CSR days into it, or some volunteering hours, or a bit of time at the weekend, or whatever it is. But it's actually just getting the kind of to go ahead of the program, right, to be able to flesh it out and start marketing it, start getting a pipeline of people in. That's usually the big impetus and hurdle in my experience.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing, Max, is I need to have a concrete ask for the governing board. So if I want to have a CI/CD expert come give that class, I need to A, identify that's a gap for us, and then B, I need to ask for that specific thing, as opposed to I need development help, secure development help. So if the more precise we can get in the requests, or we identify we have these specific gaps, then it's much easier to get people to volunteer, or to at least kind of have that kind of shared bond of kinship that they want to participate. They can see themselves, hey, I do CI/CD pipelines all the time. I do Kubernetes orchestration every day. So, hey, I can contribute there.
For sure. I'm just thinking creatively. That's what I do wonder if we could put together a training program that folks do, in an unpaid manner, and then drop into a code contribution program where they pair up with like some of those alpha omega projects, and that long tail of increasing numbers of identified projects with security gaps, and then get paired up with the mentorship, and then do some actual code contribution, because suddenly that's the best of all worlds.
That's a great idea.
And look at getting a stipend there, making that a bit of the reward and the end goal, right? Rather than paying people to do training, which I always think is a bit problematic. Some people might look at doing the training as the outcome itself, which we hope it isn't. It's what people can do once they have that training. That's the outcome.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. We should find opportunities where the sister foundation projects like Alpha and Omega, it would probably be more Omega. It might be some of the cutting the teeth, whereas Yessi and Jonathan might help do some of the mentorship and guidance, but the Omega is the bottom 10,000 projects. And that's really where I think somebody could jump in and cut their teeth on and add value with that kind of guided mentorship. And then as they prove themselves, then maybe they do actually get handed more work, like from the more professional style audits, like what you're doing with OpenSSL, for example. Maybe they pair up with Amir, and they get to shadow a real pen tester, security auditor, and that would again, experience for their resume. But they have to 100%. Prove themselves. Do these things first.
I like
that. Kind of a staggered approach. But yeah, I mean, the ideal thing for sort of people who are just getting into a field to do is like, hey, here are a list of problems, here's the list of fixes, you just need to go and kind of roll them out, right? And it's not grunt work. No. You're having to work on enterprise code bases for the first time, and work with a team of maintainers, and you are securing software that's used by millions of people. So it's really, really valuable experience and work. But I'm just sort of starting to think, a bit creatively about ways to amplify, right? And then I imagine there's probably ability to unlock a little bit more budget, probably some ability to start to connect the folks coming through that programming with talent pipelines of, some of the big megacorps like your own group, right? Yeah. I'm sure you've got open job recs for security engineers. And everyone does, despite the general trend being downward in a lot of the big tech companies in terms of headcount.
Well, and touching on that, my organization, I know every organization I've worked at in my career typically has a very robust internship program. So it's just a matter of kind of getting plugged into that internally for me, finding out what their schedule is. So if I could, earmark, can I get 4 internships for open source code development? I can see if I can get on that train internally. And then, if we get 4 other big companies to do the same, then we have a larger pool of folks that people can get internships on, and also get that real career, large corporation experience. They're working on those large code bases, as you mentioned. So again, it benefits us that, we like having interns around, because we groom those folks into future engineers. It's a pipeline for us, a pipeline for anybody. It gives those people valuable skills.
Yeah,
like this idea.
I bet security, security engineering or AppSec or however we want to cut the exact focus here, right? I'm sure you'd really struggle to hire folks who could drop into who could get through the interviews to be an internship, even if they're top computer science schools, because they will only they might memorize the RSA algorithm, which I can still probably yell at a whiteboard 15 years on, but what use is that to anyone, right?
I'm still
I
trying to
can
remember
Google it.
pie.
I can eat pie.
I get you pie.
We're at Star Wars Day. Pi Day is about 2 months behind us.
Yeah,
It's not until tomorrow, so the force isn't with us yet.
not yet. Soon. No, I actually I love this idea, and I think I am sad that it's just a couple of us here, but I think maybe I will spend some time formulating an ask for the group, and maybe I'll shoot it out to the mailing lists and Slack to see if we can get more people thinking about how can we creatively start to take action and connect people to real work. I like the idea of the alpha and omega connections and like internship with large companies. So let's see how we can do that. And then we have a spreadsheet with a bunch of stuff on it. I just don't know that stuff is exactly helpful for those learner paths. So I think David has the security fundamentals, so like security architecture concepts and principles. I think those are pretty well done. And then some fundamental coding things I think are pretty well covered. But I don't know how much we get into source code management and secure source code management,
Right.
or hardening your CI/CD pipeline against intrusion, or for guaranteeing integrity. Those types of things. I don't know how much is in there.
It's really interesting, right? Because as soon as you put a tangible end goal and set of capabilities that you need someone to have learned, right? For example, being able to contribute to one of the Omega projects, and once they've done, I don't know, a couple of months of work of that, being eligible for an internship as a security engineer, suddenly it becomes very clear what the learning path is, right? You can almost get a job rec, and a set of required and desirable skills, and back out of that, what do we need to teach folks? So I think it's a really good way of making it real. I think that the plan that we have in place facilitates all of this, right? We've got provision for creating content. We've got provision for standing up a program. I think we've got thoughts about how to market and ensure the right people get access. So I think this is probably a really fantastic way of actually, making all of that real and thinking about, right, how can we get some people, getting PRs merged by the end of the year who right now are in, I don't know, their second year of college, and they haven't even decided what their major is going to be, let alone realize yet they want to be a cybersecurity engineer when they grow up.
When I grew up, I want to be an astronaut cowboy. Astronaut cowboy firefighter.
Yeah, and this is interesting because we're kind of on the alpha omega side, we're kind of figuring out how to handle the sensitivity of data with collaborators and volunteers and our interns. Because we'll be having the triage portal, which is limited to just us and respected parties that they flow through these steps. So I think that's an interesting approach. We can probably do like GitHub like badges or something. I don't know how that works, but something to show that they're now eligible to move forward. So if you see that collaborator on your repo and they have that badge or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, they're going through the OpenSSF or education plan.
Yeah, and that was part of our Section 3 reward strategy, is some type of digital badging that as people prove themselves, they earn awards. And I think that's an excellent idea to say this person is certified okay by the OpenSSF. They have these skills and they are here to help.
Yep.
They're a qualified contributor.
Very cool.
And I could talk. I have a talk next week with Madison from GitHub. So I can sit down with her and see who we might be able to talk to internally within GitHub that runs the digital badging to see what it takes to get something set up through them.
Running.
Yeah, and I don't know if GitLab has the same concept. We'll make sure that it's transferable across source forges.
Yeah. Until you get to like SVN and Garrett, where it's very plain.
Well, and whatever the derpy thing is, Credly or something. Everyone sends me these silly little Credly badges you could put on your profile. But it's, a kind of a digitally signed URL is all it is. So somebody could put that as in part of their CV or their body of work. Doesn't necessarily have to live inside of GitHub or whatever.
Right.
All right. Well, this conversation turned out much, much better than I thought when I first stumbled in late.
Good conversation.
Yeah. So what else is there? Anything else we want to work on today? I think this is a good start. I'm going to put some thought into an email to the group.
I mean, that's the big thing that's been floating around my mind, really. Is what are the outcomes that we want to get people to? What is our real focus? How can we prove value in like a 3 to 6 month timescale? How do we put together all of the DEI objectives with the training objectives with like, heck, what are the actual outcomes that we want? And I think the outcomes are pretty clearly, both to get open source security work done and enable careers. And I think the kind of process we've just talked through is absolutely the way to do that. I think it's quite innovative, honestly. And I think if we can tune the incentivization model right, there's an awful lot that we can do there. I know that, from our side, from MLH, we could definitely source the hopper of participants to come into a program like that, pretty quickly.
Cool.
And I think from across our SIGs, we could easily source the kind of infrastructure and support to make that kind of program work. It probably does need a little infusion of cash to begin with.
Right.
And I think there's probably the right sorts of numbers that are in the plan, as is to kick something off. Because to make it sustainable, the industry that benefits from those code contributions and that talent creation need to be funding it, right? Because then it grows and grows and lives forever. Otherwise, it's a project with a defined start and end date, which is not what workforce development should be.
Agreed. Yeah, that's excellent. So I have to pick up my child. It's his last day of his freshman year of college today. So when I get back from that, I will ponder an email out to the group to try to give a concrete ask to start to get people's thoughts aligned with our conversation today. I like how this has turned.
Good conversation.
Yeah.
Good luck with college.
He has a calculus final today, so we'll see how he did. That will determine his future.
Whereabouts is college, Craig?
He is going to Ohio University. I live in Ohio. It's in the middle of the United States, and he wants to be a mechanical engineer.
Oh, nice. We run a bunch of hackathons in Ohio. Well, actually, everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cincinnati, Athens, Kent.
Athens is where he is.
He's in Athens. Okay.
Yeah. So I collect him, and how he does on his calculus final determines if he will continue on his mechanical engineering program or not, or if he gets to choose another major.
Otherwise, you'll have to send him to a hackathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll send you our event that we run out there.
That'd be great.
It's a good program.
Do you have any in Fort Lauderdale or Miami?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I might have something very interesting for you.
And Crow, by the way, I failed calculus 3 times, so he's gonna be okay.
I took pre-calc, and I took that and a basic computer class, and those were my math requirements for my undergraduate degree.
Your generation, it had it good.
I love.
I have 2 degrees in English literature. That is my training. I am not a computerologist by training. I'm a computerologist by career.
Craft.
What are you up to this weekend?
Preparing for Vancouver, and I have a self-defense workshop that I'm teaching.
Okay. I mean, you should definitely look up a hackathon that we're running in Miami this weekend. It is for underrepresented genders, so it's a big focus on women in tech. So Miami,
Nice.
I don't know how to say it, DADE College, Dade?
Miami-Dade, yeah.
Miami-Dade, yes, it's there. Check it out. I'll send
Which-
you a link. I'll send you both a hackathon to check out. Yeah, we'd love to have you there if you're free. Genuinely, I'll ping the team who are running it. Swing by, check it out, meet some of our community. I think Microsoft are doing some stuff there, but we're trying to fix Azure for them as well, to be honest, because nobody can use it.
Wasn't that your initial problem coming in on the call?
Azure.
It's good to go full circle sometimes.
My Docker file works on my machine, on Jonathan's machine, GitHub.
It always
Google Cloud.
It always works in test and doesn't work in production.
They aren't tests.
House's fault. Yeah, I know that story. I lived that story for a decade.
And it's the weirdest error. The weirdest error. I am Murphy's Law of engineering. But yeah, send me the link because I'm associated with a bunch of groups down here in South Florida, like Anita B, South Florida Tech Hub. The list is endless.
It's very short. It's very short notice, as in it starts on Friday. But if you were open to marketing it to your groups, I could send some material over to you to get word out.
Send it. Discord. I have Discord and I have Latinas in Tech as well. Latinas in Tech in Miami I have connections with.
That would be incredible. So if I Slack you a bunch of stuff, do you think you'd be able to get it out? So I know we're recruiting. I think we have 100.
Yeah, send it out.
100 people signed up so far. We can probably fit 200, 250. So there's
nice.
Invite everyone you know.
I'll send it out to everybody I know, and then if it's on if you're on LinkedIn, you can always tag me on these, and I'll reshare.
Amazing, yeah. Really appreciate it. Awesome. Well, I'll speak to our marketing folks today and share some stuff over. That's fantastic. I love that when these things happen.
Right? This is what's the beauty of open source.
It is.
The beauty of open source.
All right. Well,
and that should be a marketing.
Thank you both of you for both of you.
We've got to wrap the call on the beauty of open source.
Yeah.
Wait.
Set up. Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Cheers, both of you.
Cheers, folks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.